Okay, see here, we had started with the theory of regular assessment. This theory is still going on. Now tell me, in regular assessment, what we have to study? Firstly, what is regular assessment, and then how regular assessment takes place. So this much I have explained little bit. So what is regular assessment? Regular assessment is an assessment it is an assessment with inquiry. It is not done blindly, it is done subject to some inquiry and scrutiny. And when assessment is done with detailed inquiry and scrutiny, it is called regular assessment. And why we call it as a regular assessment? Because regular means it is done in the way it should be done. It is done in a systematic and proper manner. That is why we call it as a regular assessment. And then I explained how regular assessment is done, the procedure. And for procedure there are two steps. Step 1, first the assessing officer will call the assessee in his office. But that calling the assessee in the office is done by sending a notice under section 143(2). You have to by heart these sections, huh? So that calling of the assessee in the office is done by way of sending a notice under section 143(2). And after the assessee is called in the office on a particular day at a particular time, the AO and assessee will start discussing. This kind of discussion will go on. AO will have his own questions and assessee will have to answer those questions. And obviously AO will raise questions based on what? Based on a return file. Whatever things AO is doubting, whatever doubts AO has based on your return, he will ask the question. For example, he might say, you have not shown this income, you have claimed this expenditure wrongly. Whatever income tax related queries AO has, he will ask the assessee, and assessee has to reply with evidence. And you know, in my drawing, if you see, this is what and this is what. This is not cup of tea. This is not samosa. What is this? This is materials gathered by assessing officer. Because see, when assessing officer is calling the assessee in the office, he is also prepared. He has also collected some materials. He has collected some materials. Materials means what? Maybe he has collected returns of past years. Maybe he has got some information from GST department, etc., etc. He might have gathered some materials and he is sitting with some materials in his hand. So in my drawing, this represents materials gathered by assessing officer. And what does this represent? This is evidence produced by assessee. Assessee has to produce evidence. Evidence for what? Evidence means it is proof. He has to prove whatever he answers. Whatever assessing officer questions to the assessee, assessee has to reply with evidence. For example, if assessing officer says, this advertisement expenditure which you have claimed is false. Imagine AO is questioning that the advertisement expenditure which you have claimed in your return, which you have deducted in your net profit, it is a false advertisement expenditure. I don't believe this. So assessee will have to produce the bill. He will produce the invoice of the advertiser, and by producing the bill, basically he is producing an evidence with which he can prove that it is not a false expenditure. I have actually and genuinely incurred some advertisement expenditure. I mean, this is just one example to create the feeling of what kind of evidence assessee produces. In fact, there can be any type of evidence. Advertisement bill is just one example. Sometimes it can happen that assessee produces some past Supreme Court judgment. Past Supreme Court judgment of some another assessee. Because maybe AO and assessee are fighting on a point, and the point is such that already on that point Supreme Court has given some judgments in past. So assessee can bring that past Supreme Court judgment and say that when Supreme Court judgment states that it should be like this, so it should be like this only. Then how you are saying that it should be like that? Means assessee is arguing with AO. So sometimes to argue and to put your point correct, you have to bring Supreme Court judgment also. In short, I am just giving various examples of what this evidence can be. So this evidence can be a bill, it can be some Supreme Court judgment, it can be anything with which assessee can prove his point. Basically, this entire meeting is of argument and discussion. The argument is between AO and assessee. And you know, this way there can be any number of meetings. 5 meetings, 10 meetings, 15 meetings. There is no rule that you have to meet only once and finish, you have to meet only twice and finish. They can meet n number of times. But then beyond particular extent, they cannot drag the meeting because AO has to pass the order within 12 months. This 12 months which I have been saying since so many lectures, within 12 months AO has to pass the order, so he cannot keep meeting the assessee frequently. He will meet once, twice, thrice, 4 times, whatever, but he has to pass the order within 12 months. In short, I explained that in this drawing, this represents materials gathered by AO and this represents evidence produced by assessee. Means both the parties are sitting with something in their hand, because just oral argument cannot bring some solution. If AO also argues, he should have something to show. And if assessee also argues, he should have some documentary evidence. And based on some documents, they will discuss and finalize what should be the income of the assessee and what should be the tax. And if assessee has paid less, it will be demanded, and if he has paid more, it will be refunded. And this way assessment will get over. But this much I had already explained little bit in the last lecture. Now see, in detail you have to understand these 2 steps. Now tell me, what was the first step? First we call the assessee in the office. How to call the assessee in the office? By sending a notice under section 143(2). Now this notice has to be sent within a particular time. This time limit I didn't discuss in the previous lecture. And you know what is the time for sending notice? Which notice? Notice which is inviting the assessee to attend the office of AO. So this notice can be sent within 3 months. Within 3 months from the end of the year in which assessee has filed a return. Means depending upon when do you file the return, you will be called in the office. So what was the time limit? Within 3 months from the end of the year in which assessee has filed a return. Now when do assessee file the return? Assessee can file the return either in AY or even after AY. Sometimes it is possible that assessee has filed a return even after the assessment year. But that is not possible voluntarily, because your voluntary return has to be filed max to max by 31st December of the AY. So if you voluntarily file, it has to be filed up to 31st December of the AY latest. But sometimes you don't voluntarily file. The AO has sent a notice under section 142(1), that RAI notice, and he requires you to file the return. And when AO demands the return, then you will have to file the return whenever he demands. And he can demand even after the assessment year is over. So the point is what, whenever you filed a return, whether you filed it in the AY itself or the year after the AY, whenever you file the return, within 3 months from the end of the year in which you filed the return, you will get a notice under section 143(2). And this section is so dangerous. Today if I also receive such notice, the heading of which is notice under section 143(2), I will be scared. These section numbers are so relevant. People casually, rather students casually write 143. But after 143, if you see subsection 1, it is so relaxing. And after 143, if you see subsection 2, it is so scary. This will be understood by a person only in real life. A student doesn't understand. Student casually writes anything, 143, 1, anywhere. Sometimes they simply write 143, thinking that I have written the main section, that's sufficient. But in this chapter, it is so important to quote these sections properly with a subsection. As I said right now only, if I say 143 and after that the subsection is 1, it is so relaxing. Why did I say it is so relaxing? Because 143.1 if I get in my email, I'll feel, yes, it is just an intimation that my return has been processed in Bangalore. And many times you get the refund which you claimed. As I said in my case, few days back I got an intimation in which whatever refund I have claimed, I got the refund. So it is so relaxing to see subsection 1 after 143. But if you see subsection 2 after 143, it is scary. Why? Because 143 subsection 2 means what, you know? He is sending a letter and he is calling you in his office. And once he calls in the office, he is not going to have a party. He is going to drill you. And his questions will be so dangerous, sometimes it is not possible to answer. And beyond particular extent, you cannot argue much. Whatever he has decided, he will do it. And he will increase your income and increase your tax liability. So that's why it is scary to see notice under 143 subsection 2. Instead, I am hammering on the subsection. So coming to the main point, first step, this should be done by sending notice under section 143.2, and this should be sent within 3 months from the end of the year in which return is filed. Okay, to look at the screen, I have written here notice under section 143.2. Be particular about this section, within 3 months from the end of the year in which return is filed. Okay, in this notice it will be written that you have to attend the office of AO on a particular date. But you know, here they are little bit cool, in the sense, in case you are not able to attend the office on an appointed day, you can ask for adjournment. That I cannot come on this day, I will come on some other day. That's okay. You can ask for postponing the meeting, but that's okay. But preliminarily they will send a particular notice mentioning a day and a time, that on that day only you have to attend the office. But you are not able to attend the office on that particular appointed day, you can ask for extension also. But whatever, this notice will call you to attend the office of AO. And then what? Then discussion with assessee, and after discussion income will be computed, and this is done by passing an order, and that order is called order under section 143.3, and this order should be passed within 12 months from the end of assessment year. The time limit for passing the order is 12 months from the end of assessment year. Look at this. Order under section 143.3 should be passed within 12 months from the end of assessment year. This is the same 12 months which I have been talking about since previous 2-3 lectures. 12 months. Didn't I say at the beginning that income tax department usually they do the assessment within 12 months. So this is that 12 months only. 12 months from the end of assessment year. So see, in short, you have to remember 2 steps, 2 documents, 2 time limits. 2 steps, 2 documents and 2 time limits. Why did I say like that? 2 steps means calling the assessee and discussing with assessee. These are 2 steps. And then 2 documents, notice, order, and then 2 time limits, 3 months, 12 months. This is the way you have to memorize that there are 2 steps, 2 documents to remember, and 2 time limits, and 2 documents with the respective section. One document is notice under section 143.2, and the order is called order under section 143.3, and time limit is 3 months and 12 months. But don't just remember casually 3 months and 12 months. 3 months is counted from end of the year in which return is filed. But this 12 months has got no connection with when did you file the return. Whenever you file the return, the assessment should be finished within 12 months from the end of AY. So, you know, this requires some discussion, this 12 months point. Look, try this case. Imagine this is the previous year, this is the assessment year, and as I said, from the end of assessment year within 12 months assessment should be completed. Okay. Now, I will take two scenarios. In first scenario, I am assuming the assessee filed a return in the AY. Okay. And then I will assume that assessee filed a return in this period. Let us discuss both. You will realize one good point. Okay. Some students might have understood also what is that point, but still I will not assume, I will explain. So now first assume assessee has filed a return in the assessment year. Now don't bother whether he filed on time or belated, whatever, he filed a return in the AY. We are interested in the year, not the precise date. So whatever may be the date, he filed a return in AY. So now tell me, how is scrutiny will be conducted? This is the theory of scrutiny assessment only. Regular assessment is alternatively called as scrutiny assessment. So explain with time limit the procedure of scrutiny assessment in this case. Means imagine I filed a return. Now after this, how scrutiny will take place? There will be two steps. First, they will send me a notice under 143(2) calling me to attend the office of AO. So when that will happen, explain in the timeline. Within 3 months, notice is sent within 3 months from the end of the year in which I filed a return. So see, in my example, I filed a return on this date. So I can get the notice under section 143(2) anytime till the end of AY. Means the end of the year in which I filed a return. And even after the year ends, there are still 3 more months during which I can expect notice under section 143(2). So I have highlighted the portion during which it is possible to receive notice under section 143(2). Okay. Let's assume I received the notice during this time. After the notice is received, what is the next step? After this notice, let's assume the notice is received during this period. So after I receive the notice during this period, what is the next step? I have to attend the office of AO. And after attending the office of AO, we might have 2, 3, 5, 6 meetings. But then by when the order should be passed and assessment should be finished? Within 12 months from the end of assessment year. So that means after this notice period, still the assessing officer has got time to discuss with me. In worst case, the AO will send me notice on this day when the 3 months expire. You know when do the 3 months expire? 30th June. You should have calculated that, because after the end of the year, if you see 3 months, let me write here 3 months. If you see 3 months, so 3 months will be after March, it is April, May, June. So even if 30th of June assessing officer, even if 30th June assessing officer send me a notice, still after that assessing officer has got time to discuss with me and pass the order by end of this 12 months. Okay, so this was a simple case. Now try another example. Now I am assuming the associate filed a return in the year after the AY. Imagine you have filed a return on this date. Which date? The year after the assessment year. Firstly, is it possible that someone files the return after the assessment year? It is possible but not voluntarily. Voluntary returns, voluntary means you are understanding or not. If on your own, if you want to file the return, then max to max you can file up to 31st December of the assessment year. Means in the assessment year only up to 31st December, max to max you can file on your own. But it is not necessary that every assessee files a return on their own. Sometimes income tax officer demands. So in case he has demanded, so it is possible that he can demand even in this 12 months period. So assume the case is like this only, that AO demanded and he asked me to file the return and I filed the return. Okay, now tell me how the assessment procedure will go on. Procedure means I want you to explain me these two steps with the timeline. I have created a case that someone has filed a return on this date. Now in this case, how assessment procedure will take place? With time limit you have to explain. Procedure involves two steps. Step 1 is call the assessee in the office by sending notice under 143(2) within this time. So tell me in this drawing, by when should I get notice under section 143(2)? What is the time limit? 3 months from the end of the year when return is filed. So tell me, when did I file the return? On this date. So end of the year means I have to end the year first, and then after that again 3 more months are there. The time limit states like this only, na? So if I just draw this with a black color, just notice the portion I am highlighting. So end of the year is 31st March 2026 in my example, and after that 3 more months. So during this period, I should receive what I should receive? Notice under section 143(2). But then although as per the law the time limit is 3 months from the end of the year in which return is filed, but it is not allowed for the assessing officer to send notice beyond this deadline. Means even though I have drawn this 3 months period, this has got no value. Why? Technically, as per the time stated in the law, AO can send a notice till the 3 months from the end of the year in which return is filed. So technically, if you calculate as per the straight provisions of the law, the calculation was done properly. See, on this date I filed a return. Check it was proper or not. Then end of the year means 31st March, and after that again 3 months. So I extended till 3 months. So as per the law, I have drawn it properly. But then you have to understand by common sense that there is no point in sending a notice and calling the assessee after the 12 months expire. Tell me, why did I say like that? Because why is assessing officer calling the assessee to office? To discuss and compute his income. But to discuss and compute his income has a deadline of 12 months. So that has got overriding effect. That time limit is imposing over 3 months. Although 3 months time limit will say, ITO will go like this only, 3 months from the end of the year in which return is filed. To hell with 3 months. What is most important is the deadline of 12 months. Because see, this step is a preparation for the main step. This step, which step? Calling the assessee and all that. It is a preparation for the main step. The main step is to pass order and compute the income. So main thing has got overriding effect. So when law says that by hook or crook, you have to complete the assessment and pass this order within 12 months from the end of AY. So that means it is a strong time limit. You cannot go beyond that. Then someone will say, then what was the use of three months? 3 months has got importance, but when the return is filed at an early stage, if a person has filed a return at an early stage, then 3 months time is fully available. This time, see, because that 12 months is yet to expire. But then some people don't file the return only. They have to be asked to file the return. So if that filing of return takes place at a very later date, especially in my case it was so late, then assessing officer has to speed up his work. In short, tell me, if I am assessing officer in this case, which case, this case, what I should do? Tell me. I should not keep that 3 months in my mind so much that I still have that 3 months time. I can nicely send a notice till 30th of 3 months expires on 30th of June. I can still send a notice till 30th of June. But this 30th of June will cross 12 months. So if I am assessing officer, what is my duty? See, I'll tell you what is my duty. I should draw a line in my mind. I am assessing officer. I should draw a line in my mind and I should not give importance to this period. Which period? This thing. The period which goes beyond the expiry of 12 months. I should not depend upon this. So if assessing officer says no, law has given the time of 3 months to send a notice, so I can send any time, then send. What will you do by sending the notice in this period? Look, what will assessing officer do by sending a notice in this period? That notice states what? Attend the office. But what will you do in the meeting? In the meeting, after all, you have to discuss and compute the income. But that computation of income should be done latest by the end of this 12 months. So that's why this time does not have any relevance. Means this is for the assessing officer to realize. So in short, assessing officer will have to speed up the work. In the sense, look, on this date what happened? On this date what happened? Assessee filed a return. Immediately within a day or two, I will send a notice. Means if I am assessing officer and if I sit relaxed, return has come, now I will send a notice latest by expiry of the 3rd month. So I cannot sit relaxed because that 3rd month is going beyond this 12 months. So that's why I need to speed up my activities. As soon as the assessee has filed a return, in fact I should immediately send a notice under section 143(2). Because see, this notice will call the assessee. But after even the assessee comes, we have to discuss also. The discussion also needs some time. So considering the shortage of time, the assessing officer will have to speed up his activities. In the sense, in this period only, look at the drawing. In this period only, I have to finish everything. What everything? Send a notice, call him, discuss, 1 time discuss, 2 time discuss any number of time, but finish it by the expiry of this 12 months. Because 12 months has got overriding effect. And law cannot keep this 12 months based on the filing of return. Did you notice the counting of 12 months is based on assessment year? What if the 12 months was counted from the end of return year? Imagine what would have been the case if law would have stated that 12 months should be counted from not AY, from whenever assessee files the return. Then in that case, you know what would have happened? An assessee who has filed a return on this date, then had the 12 months been counted based on return date, where the 12 months would have gone in my drawing? End of this year, after that again 12 months. This way the proceeding gets dragged. Law doesn't want that. I am justifying the law that why they have counted from AY. Because even this 12 months, which 12 months? This 12 months was counted from the end of the year in which return is filed. Then imagine a scenario where return was filed on this date, the end of the year, after that again 12 months. Don't you think the assessment of this previous year is dragged so much? Imagine a person has earned the income in previous year 23-24 and this year's assessment is being dragged so much. That law doesn't want. So that's why what law says, maximum to maximum, whatever is your previous year, after that assessment year comes. After that, within 12 months, assessment proceeding should be over. Because 1 year's assessment we cannot drag so much. So that's why law is very particular that calling the assessee can depend upon filing the return. Didn't understand what I say? Calling the assessee can depend upon filing the return. And that has to depend upon filing the return. Because unless the assessee files the return, how will I call him in the office? Because I am calling the assessee in the office to discuss the questions of the return. Are you understanding the feeling of the law? Calling the assessee in the office that 3 months time, that has to be linked with filing of return. Because only when the assessee files the return, AO gets questions that this return is wrong, everything is bullshit, there is some blunder. So only when he files the return, AO gets the question and feels like calling. So when you want to call the assessee in the office, the time limit depends upon when the assessee filed the return. Means I am justifying that 3 months depends upon when the assessee files the return. But then that can depend upon filing the return. But then discussion and all that, computing the income on a piece of paper, passing the order, that has to be done strictly within 12 months from the end of AY. And AY is fixed at its place. See, filing return here keeps changing. Some people file the return in AY. Some people find even after AY. But our AY is firm at its place. And if 12 months is counted from that firm AY, the assessment proceedings will be speeden up. Means you can speeden up the assessment proceeding. In short, I have been discussing so much to justify on what, that 3 months counting is from return date. 12 months counting is from AY. This you have to precisely remember, because if I don't stress this much, people take it so casually. 3 months, 12 months, they write anything. 3 months from the end of AY. It's absolutely wrong to write 3 months from the end of AY. In this 3 months, I am calling the assessee. So imagine someone has not filed the return only in AY. So what will I do calling him? My agenda of calling him is to question him based on the returns. So I need the return first. So in short, the time of 3 months, that is the time for calling the assessee by sending a notice under 143(2) depends upon when did he file the return. But after you call him, that discussion, all that should not be dragged beyond 12 months from the end of assessment year. Means latest by 12 months, this order should be passed. Over. Finally, regular assessment is over. So in short, actually these 2 steps I had explained, but I wanted to discuss at length about this thing, which I could not rush in the previous lecture, because this is important time limit. Okay, one more thing. Within this 3 months, What law says? That assessee should receive the notice. Means it should not be that the IT department has sent the notice but assessee has not received till 3 months. Means in this deadline of 3 months, assessee should receive. See, sometimes you know what happens, the assessing officer has sent the notice by speed post. See, in case he is sending the notice by email, email can be sent and received on the same day. Email goes immediately, sent and received. But imagine the notice was sent via speed post. So if assessing officer sent the notice via speed post, so it is possible that he had sent the notice in time of 3 months. But by the time the assessee received, the 3 months got over. So it is an invalid notice. Because in the law they have written, the assessee should be served with the notice within this 3 months only. To serve something means make him receive. You are not taking this point seriously. Exams, if you see past ICAI exam, they have asked this question sometimes. Which question? That a case where notice was sent within 3 months. Okay, tell me precisely when do this 3 months expire? 30th of June. So in the question they will create a situation where on 29th of June the AO sent the notice under 143.2. Yes, good. What they will write in the exam? Look at the drawing. On 29th June, AO sent the notice under 143.2. But it was received by the assessee on 5th of July. Or maybe 2nd of July. 5th and 2nd of July means after the expiry of 3 months. And then they will ask in the question whether the notice is valid or not valid. It is invalid. What law says? Sending is not sufficient. Assessee should receive within that time. Because the provisions state like this, the notice should be served on the assessee. The law has used this word served. Served means what? If I serve something means what? When you receive that thing in your hand, it is properly served. Just by sending service of notice is not satisfied. To serve the notice means you should make the assessee receive. So that's what I am saying. In case the notice was sent within 3 months, it was sent within 3 months, sent. But it was received by the assessee after 3 months. So it's not a valid notice. In the exam you should write it, the notice under section 143.2 is invalid. So in short, in the exam also how will you write? Notice under section 143.2 should be received by the assessee within 3 months from the end of the year when return is filed. But you know, this is the only exceptional notice. At all other places in our income tax provision, wherever I talk about notice, the law simply says the notice should be issued and sent within this time. Then even if it is received later on, that's not our problem. We had sent the notice on time, so we are perfect. But this is the only place where law is expecting that assessee should receive within this time. Because see, if receiving was not stressed on, sometimes it will happen, you know, that AO will send the notice within 3 months. And by the time the assessee receives, it becomes little later. And when assessee receives the notice only late, he will attend the office also late. And if he attends late, the proceeding will be delayed. That law doesn't want. That we don't want to delay the proceedings. Because after the assessee attends, it doesn't get over in one meeting. Sometimes it takes couple of meetings. So we need time for discussion. So at least service of the notice should be done within 3 months. Means make it a point that within 3 months that assessee receives in his hands the notice. So tell me, in a practical case, whenever you get the notice of 143.2, although the date might say the notice is before 30th June, but the date when you actually received in your hand at your residence, it was after 30th of June. So just tear the notice, because the notice is not valid. A valid notice means it should be received in the hands of assessee within 3 months time. Now many students have the question, how can we find out whether the assessee received on this date or that date? That is why income tax authorities send the notice via speed post. And you know, speed post department, what is their modus operandi? What is their method of working? Whenever they come to a residence, in case assessee is not there at home, they will go back. They will come again. And when you are there at home, whether you are there, your wife, your child, your son, daughter, whoever is there, mummy, papa, they will take their signature that notice has been received. So they have to acknowledge that assessee received the notice. So that can prove. So you don't have to worry that how to find out whether he is received or not, and he received on which date. This is a record maintained by Speed Post Department of Government. But you know, nowadays most of the cases, the notices are sent via mail. So these points has got very less relevance. Because if the notice is sent through email, so once I shoot the mail, the other party will receive the mail immediately. So there is no question of change of days. That it was sent on this day, received on some other day. That is possible when the notice is sent physically. But physical sending of notice is very rare nowadays. But then still I have to talk about this scenario, because the law states the notice should be received within 3 months time. So if it is simply sent, not yet received, the notice is not valid. So this finally completes our regular assessment. So in short, what you have to remember regular assessment? Firstly, you have to remember this drawing. This drawing actually explains what happens in regular assessment. It is a face-to-face discussion between AO and assessee. And what are the 2 steps? Call the assessee in the office by sending notice under 143.2 within 3 months from the end of the year return was filed. And after the assessee attends the office, after discussing with the assessee, the income will be computed on a piece of paper called assessment order, and that order should be passed latest within 12 months from the end of AY, and that order is called order under section 143.3. Order section is 143.3. Tell me, what was the ending of summary assessment? Summary assessment ended with an intimation. Summary assessment ended with an intimation under 143.1. But regular assessment ended with an order under section 143.3. Okay. Here it is 143.3. There it was 143.1. And that was not order. That was simply intimation. But here we have to mention its order. Okay. Now one more thing. As I said, regular assessment means assessment with inquiry. So where is the role of inquiry under 142 over here? In this entire, see, in this drawing I have explained the procedure, that first you will get a notice during this period. Okay. First you will get notice during this period to attend the office, and then by end of 12 months order will be passed. I just explained 2 steps. So where do section 142 stand here? What is the position of 142 over here? (142). So see, look here. You know what law says? To conduct regular assessment, these 2 are mandatory steps. But in between these two steps, whether to do 142 or not, it is completely the discretion of assessing officer. So that's why that 142 doesn't come in the steps. When we remember the steps of regular assessment, there is no step of do 142 inquiry. See, that cannot be counted as a step. Although 142 inquiry takes place many times, but then since it is not mandatory, it is not counted as a step in regular assessment. See, in summary assessment, anyways there is no inquiry in summary. But in regular assessment, a student thinks, कि sir told us that regular assessment is with inquiry, with inquiry. So where is the inquiry in the steps? Which inquiry I am talking about? 142, sending RAI notice, special audit and all that. So see, if you are thinking about it, 142, role of 142 in these two steps, then I would say 142 is not mandatory. It may happen, it may not happen. And even law says, don't do 142. But for scrutiny, these two steps are must. But then some students will ask, so if 142 is not done, then it becomes an assessment without inquiry. No, even if section 142 is not done, even if only these two steps are done, it is still an assessment with inquiry. But with inquiry means a casual inquiry, not a formal inquiry prescribed by 142. See, by calling the assessee in the office, look, when they are discussing, are they chatting over some movie? Are they chatting about their personal life? Assessing officer literally drilling the assessee. And to drill the assessee, sitting in his office, calling him in front of him, it is what? It is nothing but inquiry. So this itself is an inquiry. So you didn't understand my question is what when you study my notes, you will find it's written regular assessment is with inquiry. Even in my explanation, I said it's an assessment with inquiry. So usually a student has a doubt. Sir, you told that regular assessment is with inquiry. So where is the inquiry 142? Do you know why students getting doubt? Because when I say regular assessment with inquiry, student starts thinking about that 142. Here when I say regular assessment is with inquiry means inquiry in general sense. But discussing in the office, basically AO is doing what? Is doing inquiry only. So this discussion, the meeting itself is an inquiry meeting. But that formal 142, wherein you are asked to get your stock valued, get your audit done, that formal method of 142 may happen, may not happen. And it can happen, look, it can happen before calling the assessee in the office. It can happen after calling the assessee only in the office. And it may not happen also. What? That formal 142 which I had explained, this thing I am talking about. This formal 142, whether it will happen or not, it is not guaranteed. It can happen anytime, there is no prescribed time. So tell me, first, is it possible that once the assessee files the return and once you are called in the office, and after the assessee is called in the office, 142 can start? It's possible. And practically that is the common case. Nowadays what assessing officer does, when he will send you that notice under 143.2, in that notice what is writing? To attend the office. So along with the notice he will staple one more notice 142.1, in which he will say bring some information also. Information means I from RAI. RAI notice, RAI notice. What was I in the RAI notice? Information. So many times you get a couple notice. Couple means two notice together. One states 143 to attend the office on so and so day. And along with that one more notice is stapled. That is notice under 142.1. And in that they say, since you are coming only to the office, bring this information also. But this is not necessary. I'm just giving one illustration. This can happen like this also. And sometimes what AO will do? Forget 142. I am not interested in 142 method of inquiry. I don't want that. I will simply call him in the office. I will drill him in such a way that I will find out the truth by discussion only. I don't want to do anything from 142. To hell with special audit, to hell with information from other sources, to hell with Rye notice. I will simply call him in the office and drill him and find out his income. He can completely skip 142. Or it may happen like this, that AO called him in the office, but the discussion was so complicated, AO started thinking, now it is necessary to get his accounts audited. Are you listening? What did I say? AO called the assessee in the office, and when the assessee attended, the discussion became so hot that AO felt now the audit is must. I cannot just discuss and compute the income. I feel the audit is necessary. Then in the meeting only he can give him a direction. Which direction? 142 2A. Or after he leaves the office, a notice direction will be issued to his residence via email or whatever, and he will be asked to get the accounts audited. In short, what I am explaining right now, what is the role of 142 in this procedure? So what is the conclusion? Tell me based on whatever I said. So if someone asks you what is the role of 142, so you should say, see, 142 inquiry, that sending of Rye notice, gathering information from other sources, GST department, etc., special audit, it's not mandatory. AO might do, AO might not do. And if he does, he can do any time during this process. He can do that 142 before calling the assessee in the office. He can also do that 142 after calling him in the office. But it is understood that anything he does, it will happen during this period only. Because after the expiry of 12 months, nothing will work. Because that is a deadline to finish the assessment of this previous year. In short, this was discussion about where do 142 stand here. And although we have studied 142 in depth, practically if you ask me the proportion of cases where 142 happens, 20-25% cases. Most of the cases, there is nothing like 142. What assessing officer will do? He has seen, and mostly people file the return. So return has been filed. They will simply call you in the office. They will discuss and finalize and pass the order. And there was nothing like 142. And students keep wondering, Suresh taught us 142 in my client's case. Means people relate this discussion with articleship. In my client's case, there was nothing like 142. So it happens. Many times it happens that without 142, simply these two steps and over. And even law has said, these are the mandatory steps. 142 is optional. Now finally, regular assessment is over. It was over only. I just wanted to discuss the role of 142 in this procedure. So section 143, 2 and 3 of regular assessment is done. Okay, now next assessment is best judgment assessment. Best judgment assessment. So look at this summary. See, how did we plan this chapter? First, we have to learn about returns, which we did. Then inquiry is done. Then assessment. And assessment broadly, it can be timely or belated. And within timely assessment, we have done summary assessment and regular assessment. But then, let me clarify the regular assessment which I have discussed. It was a face-to-face regular assessment, how it is done. But nowadays, most of the assessments are done in faceless manner, where the AO and assessee will not personally and physically meet. But how that faceless assessment takes place, it cannot be discussed at this stage. it will be too early for me to discuss. It can start creating confusion. So that's why faceless assessment theory I am keeping for a later stage. So that has to be done later. So right now if I say I have explained regular assessment, but in in face-to-face manner, how regular assessment is done, that is taught. Okay, then next assessment is best judgment assessment. Now see, best judgment assessment is done when the assessee does not cooperate. There are some assessee who are not cooperative. So you know what law says? If the assessee is not cooperating in the procedure of assessment, what is non-cooperation I will explain. But right now let me finish it casually, that what law says, that if the assessee does not cooperate, then let him go to hell. We will complete the assessment as per our own judgment. Means assessing officer will compute the income of the assessee, compute the tax liability without involving the assessee in the meeting. He will do the computation based on his own judgment. But this will happen when? If the assessee does not cooperate. And it is bad for the assessee only. See, it is good that assessee cooperates, because if he cooperates, he will be involved in the meeting face to face. In regular assessment, what happened? AO and assessee both were discussing one-to-one, face-to-face, one-on-one. So discussion is good, na? Because in discussion I can prove my points. But if you show non-cooperation, then assessing officer will not involve you in the meeting. He will not involve you in the meeting. He will sit alone in his cabin and compute his income based on his own judgment. But his judgment should be best and honest. You know why law says best judgment? Because sometimes it is possible that assessing officer in his anger, he might compute the income abnormally high, thinking what? This nonsense assessor is not cooperating? I will show him now. See what computation I do. So this is immature behavior. This is not expected from the assessing officer. You know what law explains the AO? See, people are like this only. You cannot expect every assessee will be a good assessee and cooperative. There are some good cooperative assessee, there are some bad non-cooperative assessee, but because of them you cannot change your behavior. You have to be calm. When you are applying your judgment in computing the income, you have to honestly think what should be his income. Just because he is not cooperating, out of your anger, if you compute his income abnormally high, this will again give rise to dispute. So that should not happen. So law says, AO, we have given the authority to apply your judgment, but apply your judgment wisely and honestly. Your judgment should be best. Best means it should not be a guesswork. It should be honest judgment. What you truly think your assessee's income should be. That way you should compute the income. You know, even doing a guesswork is not a best judgment. For example, if I am assessing officer and I feel you are not cooperating with me, go to hell now, go to hell. I will compute the income like this. Income from salary, okay, let it take nil. Income from house body 5 crores. Business 2 crores. Capital gains 1 crore. Anything randomly without any base. See, this mere guesswork is not best judgment. If I am computing the income according to my judgment, I should take something in my hand. Like I need returns of preceding years. So with the preceding years, I can make trend analysis. Trend analysis means last year his income was 10 lakhs. Then last year it was 15 lakhs. So it seems this year it should be 20 lakhs. The income is going in increasing trend. Or it can be reverse way also. Last year his income was 10 lakhs. Then it became 8 lakhs. So it seems his income is going on downside. So I will compute it at 6 lakhs. I mean, there is no rule as such for this. But I have to apply my judgment like this. I cannot make a wild guess. His income should be 10 crores, this much, that much. That would be wrong and harassment on the assessee. So I am explaining what is the meaning of best judgment. So best means there should be no guesswork. I should take some material in my hand like returns of previous years or maybe some information from GST department, anything. I should have some material in my hand and then my brains. So my brains and materials, based on that I should honestly compute the income of the assessee. And you know, best judgment scenario is something like this. Look at the drawing. See what has happened to AO. Can you see? Something is coming out of the head of AO. That is fire, anger. He is angry. Why is he angry? Why is he angry? Look, because the assessee does not cooperate. So AO gets frustrated. AO thinks, I am also doing a job. I am also an employee. I am not doing this for my family. Means it is not my business or my profits. I am working, I am doing government service. So I also feel frustrated. I mean, this is the mentality of AO. So if you don't cooperate, I will get angry. But then law says calm down, calm down. You should not be so angry that in your anger you compute the income abnormally high. That should not happen. So although he is angry, but he has to act in a cool manner. And see what he is doing. Wait, I have done some mistake here. Can you see this? This should not be there because the other chair is empty. I know you can't even see the chair also, but that's okay. But imagine there is chair on the other side of the table and that chair is empty, no one is sitting. Why no one is sitting? Because we are not involving the assessee. And assessee is not involved because he is not cooperating. So when assessee is not involved, this should not come. So this is printing mistake. So I will delete this. So tell me, what is this now? This is materials gathered by AO. It can be like returns of past years. It can be some detailed information from GST department or from some third party or anything. TDS certificates. Even TDS certificates help us in knowing what should be your income. So it can be anything in the form of this materials. And then see, look, materials and plus. Can you see the plus sign? Materials plus the judgment of AO. Where judgment of AO is coming from? From his brain. See, I have drawn his brain over here. Can't see, I'll zoom and show. Look. This is the brain of assessee. Okay. So from his brain, he has to judge what should be the true income. But his judgment alone is not sufficient. Along with this, look at the plus sign. He should have some materials in his hand. Because judgment with some material can become a best judgment. Otherwise, it is just a guesswork. Judgment without any material, without any base, it is just a guesswork. It should not be a guesswork. It should be with supporting materials. Then it will be called as a best judgment. And then what will he do by applying his judgment? On a piece of paper, he will compute the income of the assessee, he will compute the tax liability, and it will close at demand only. Don't expect refund over here. You want refund and you don't want to cooperate also. How it is possible? So for a non-cooperative assessee, the assessment closes in demand. Don't expect a refund over here. And obviously, if assessee is expecting some refund, he will not behave non-cooperative. He will definitely cooperative. Take it on you. If I am expecting some refund from IT department, so obviously I will cooperate and I would expect that I should sit in the office and talk to AO. Because my vested interest is there, my refund. So people who expect refund, they are usually cooperative. And those assessors who are not cooperative, in that case, anyway, there is no refund. But what law says, there is no refund, but we want to demand something, so we will demand. So in short, best judgment assessment closes with some demand. The idea of best judgment is what you know, that if assessor is not cooperating, let him not cooperate. At least IT department should recover whatever due belongs to them. Just because assessor is not cooperating, we cannot let go. We can let go and ask the assessor to go to hell. But why shouldn't we compute the assessment? At least we will compute the assessment one-handed. One-handed means alone, not involving the assessee, and at least we recover our dues, whatever we deserve. So that is the idea of best judgment assessment. So usually it will close at demand only. You know why did I say usually? Sometimes it is possible that assessee was expecting a refund of 1 lakh, still is getting refund, but not 1 lakh, it became 40,000. So then you should not argue, sir, you said refund is never possible in best judgment. It's possible, but in this case, what case I created right now, an assessee was expecting a refund of 1 lakh. So he is not getting 1 lakh, but his refund was cut down to 40,000. That is possible. Means technically refund is possible, but not the refund which you desired. You might have desired some 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, but it is cut down to a smaller amount. That can happen. But you know, a person desiring refund will usually cooperate. A case of non-cooperation, 99.9% closes in demand. Okay, now you know what is the next theory. When do we say that assessee has not cooperated? There should be some test for non-cooperation. Otherwise, see, if non-cooperation is not defined in the law, what assessing officer will start doing? He will start harassing for every silly point. For every silly point, he will say, you are not cooperating? Gone. I will not involve you in the assessment. I will do as per my judgment. So for every silly thing, he will start blaming the assessee that you are not cooperating, not cooperating. So that's why what is non-cooperation is not left to the AO. It is defined in the Act. And that's what I am explaining next. So my next explanation is, what does non-cooperation mean as per section 144. So see, non-cooperation means not respecting these sections. You know why I have written circumstances? Circumstances means these circumstances can say that you are non-cooperative and it can lead to best judgment assessment. Circumstance means situations which can lead to best judgment assessment. Or you can say cases of non-cooperation. So tell me, what are these sections? Actually, if you don't respect these sections, law says you are not cooperative. We will not involve you. We will not involve you in the assessment procedures. We will do it alone with our own judgment. You know, this assessment is also called ex parte assessment. You know why it is called ex parte assessment? Ex parte means you have to exclude the other party. Who is the other party? AO is one party. Who is the other party? Assessee. And you can see in my drawing, assessee is involved or not involved? Not involved. That's why we say excluding the assessee, or in technical manner we say ex parte. Parte means party. The other party is excluded in the assessment. So it is a popular name for best judgment assessment, ex parte assessment. So now tell me one by one, what are these sections? What is section 139(1)? Voluntary return, belated return. 139(4) is belated return. Then RAI notice, direction for special audit or special stock valuation. Then notice to attend the office of AO. See, I have written here. So 139.1 is voluntary return, 139.4 is belated return, 142.1 is RAI notice, 142.2 is special audit or special stock valuation, 143.2 is attend the office. Now, if the assessee does not respect these sections, it is said that he is not cooperating. Okay, listen to my tone and you will feel non-cooperation. See, just listen one by one. I will talk about all sections in my conversation round. Okay, see, law says 139.1 is expecting from the people to file the return voluntarily. It is your duty to file the return voluntarily. Don't you understand, people, that you have to file the return on your own? Why should we call each and every assessee, please file, please file, please file? You are not obliging by filing the return. India is your country, and to run the country we need money, and that money means tax you are supposed to pay, and for that we cannot keep begging, please file, please file. It is your duty to file the return. So when someone doesn't voluntarily file the return, AO gets angry. I am giving you the feeling of anger. You should also get angry. So voluntary return means here you are expected to file on your own and you are not obliging. You are doing it for your country and country is giving you benefit in return. So you should do it. Okay, we understand. Sometimes you are tied up in your daily schedule that you cannot file the return on time. Then at least file belated return. That also you are not ready to do. Shameless. Okay, forgot. You forgot to file the return. We reminded you by sending RAI notice. In RAI notice, what is R? Please file the return. You should file at least after we ask. And what is A? Produce accounts. We are asking for accounts. We are not asking your wealth. We simply need your accounts. So you should submit the accounts. And what is I? Information. We want some information because we are also discharging our duties here as an employee. So when we expect some information, please give information. And then if we are expecting you to get your accounts audited, in that also we are ready to bear the expense. Still you are shameless that you are not getting it audited. So obviously we will feel you are not cooperating. And then when I am asking you to attend my office, you should attend. You are not a VIP. If you are VIP, we are also VIP. If you are busy, we are also busy. We means AO. AO says when I am putting my time as an employee to do this work, so you should also bring some time, remove some time and attend my office. And you are not bothered to attend the office. Shameless assessee. So these are the signs of non-cooperation. And under this circumstances, obviously AO will feel assessee is not cooperating only. In the sense, look, neither he voluntarily filed a return, nor belated. Some people don't reply to RAI notice. Some people don't reply to the direction for special audit. Some people don't attend the office. So all this makes AO feel frustrated. He feels assessee is not interested only. So under these cases, what AO will say? Let him go to hell. He is not interested. But our government is interested in the tax revenue. So we will compute his income according to our judgment and we will raise the demand whatever we think fit. In my tone it sounded as if some assessee has not respected any sections. Means my tone was such that it sounded that shameless assessee, he has not complied with any section. It's not like that. My tone would have been like that, but actually the law says anyone from these circumstances can give you a tag of non-cooperation. Any one point is sufficient for the AO to do best judgment assessment. Any one. Means it's not necessary that you have to be so shameless that neither you are voluntarily filing, nor belated, nor you are responding. Means everything was tried on you. You never replied anything. So it's not like that you have to do everything to come into the fault. Even if one thing, one out of this, any one thing from this can lead to best judgment assessment. You know, why did I say like this? Because in the act, look, in the act, they have written the words or. Can you see? Or means it is either or. Either you did this or this or this. So that itself means what? It's not necessary that there should be non-compliance of all the sections together. Any one section not complied with can result in best judgment. So tell me if you understood. Is it possible that AO can get frustrated with 139.1 non-compliance only? What does 139.1 expect from you? Tell me. This section expects that you should voluntarily file the return up to the due date 31st July, 31st October or 30th November. So this section simply expects you to voluntarily file the return up to due date. So in case assessee has not filed the return up to due date, so you can take that point. You didn't file the return. You didn't voluntarily file the return. The due date has gone. Best judgment. But they are not that hyper. Just on this silly point of not filing voluntarily up to the due date, they don't get angry suddenly. Usually they have a lot of patience. You know what assessing officer will usually do? If you haven't complied the voluntary return due date, he will wait for belated. What he will think? He will give you a benefit of doubt. Maybe assessee was busy and tied up in his work. He could not get time to file a timely return. Let me wait for belated. Means they are so nice people that they even wait for belated return ka due date, which is 31st of December. And still if assessee has not filed, he can get angry at that moment also. But usually he won't get angry. They are so nice, you know what they will think? Okay, he has not the file written on his own, neither on time or belated. Let me try and ask him. Let me try and ask him means, let me send him a notice and ask him to file the return. He will try even sending a notice and requesting you to file the return. But still if you don't file the return, then definitely he will get angry. See, there is no benchmark or rule that at what point he will be angry and he will activate the best judgment. There is no rule for that. I am just casually saying, if I am a normal assessing officer with a normal sound rational mind, what would be my mentality? I will not get suddenly angry on this point only. If someone has not filed voluntary return means what? Up to the due date he hasn't filed. Huh? So what a normal human being will think? It's okay. On time many people do not file. There is nothing to get angry on this. If I want as per law I can get angry. Huh? But I won't get angry being a normal human being, and I will understand the assessee is also a normal human being. So let's understand him. So I will also wait for belated return. And still if belated return is not filed, I will not get excited. What I will think? People forget to file the return. It's okay. So always they give benefit of doubt to the assessee. That assessee might have forgotten. Let me remind him by sending RAI notice. RAI notice. But even to that RAI notice, if assessee does not reply, then any normal assessing officer will get frustrated. Because in RAI notice, you are asking him to file the return. At least obey that. When we are asking you to file the return, you should file return. But still if you don't file, then he will get angry. Means I am just explaining normally what happens in real life. Otherwise there is no such rule that at what point best judgment will be activated. he can activate best judgment from any one of these circumstances. Okay, can you count and tell me total how many cases are possible? How many circumstances can lead to best judgment? Count and tell me. People count like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are students who remember like this, that there are 5 situations of best judgment. In fact, there are no 5, there are 7 situations. Count. In this Rye notice, there are 3 notices: R, A, I. See, Rye notice, we call it as Rye notice. But under 142.1, there are 3 different variety of notice. Notice to file the return is a different variety. Produce accounts, produce information. So there are 3 different notices. So 3 cases over here. 1, 2, 3. This is 4, 5, 6, 7. In fact, you can also call it as 8. Because this special audit direction, there are 2 types of direction. Special audit and special stock valuation. I am just minutely counting what are the maximum circumstances which can lead to best judgment. So count and tell me once again. 1 is voluntary return, 2 belated, 3 not filing the return in response to 142.1 means R from Rye, 4 A from Rye, 5 I from Rye, 6 special audit, 7 special stock valuation to be done by a cost accountant, 8 not attending the office. So this way there can be 8 mistakes. 8 mistakes which can be done by assessee. But is it necessary that he should commit all 8 mistakes? Any one of these 8 mistakes you do, your case will go in best judgment assessment. So tell me, what did I explain? First I explained what is best judgment assessment, and then circumstances which can lead to best judgment. Now I will explain the procedure. Procedure means here also there are 2 small steps. Procedure means not a long procedure. There are 2 steps for doing best judgment. In short, my theory is divided into 3 parts. Look, what is best judgment assessment? Then circumstances which can lead to best judgment assessment, and then after this comes steps. The steps wala thing I will take after some time. First, tell me this thing. What is best judgment assessment? It is a judgment, it is an assessment done without involving the assessee in the meeting. It is done based on the judgment of the AO. And the judgment of the AO should not be a mere guesswork. It should be with the help of some materials in his hand. It should be honest and the best judgment. And this is usually the case when assessee does not cooperate. This I had explained in the meaning of best judgment. Then, what circumstances can lead to best judgment? So I told you, in all there can be maximum 8 mistakes which a person can commit, and any one of the 8 mistakes you do, your case can go in best judgment assessment. Okay, now procedure. There are 2 steps. Look, step 1, the AO has to first send a show cause notice. What do you mean by show cause notice? For doing best judgment assessment, the AO has to first send a show cause notice. You know, in show cause notice, what AO will write? AO will say, you didn't cooperate with me. You didn't reply to my special audit direction. You didn't reply to my letter of attending the office. You did this, that. You tell me, why should not I do your best judgment? Give reason. Show cause. Didn't understand? Show cause means give reason why the hell didn't you cooperate. Basically, AO is interested in knowing why are you not cooperating? And you know what is the point of asking him the reason for non-cooperation? Because sometimes the assessee is not cooperating because of some genuine problem. AO might simply blame the assessee that he's shameless only, he is not bothered to look at any of my notice, he is not replying only, he is useless, hopeless. See, this is one-sided thinking. AO should also see the other side. Other side means maybe the assessee is stuck in some problem in his real life. Maybe his family member is hospitalized, his wife is hospitalized, his wife is serious, his father is serious, maybe he himself is hospitalized, he is in a bad state. And on the other hand, AO is simply thinking, these people are nonsense only, useless only, useless only. It's bad, na? So, although the assessee is not cooperating, is bad. But then it is the duty of the AO to know the reason for non-cooperation. That is why it is called show cause. Give reason that why didn't you cooperate. For example, if a student doesn't attend my class in a particular lecture, and if I start thinking, purposely that student didn't attend the lecture, that student wants to sleep early in the morning, he is not able to come early at 7 o'clock, he wants to sleep, that's why he didn't come. I might think I have got reasons to think, because generally students are lazy. So considering the general tendency, I have got right to think that way. But at the same time, it's wrong, na? It's not necessary that student was lazy, he didn't want to come and wake up early in the morning. That is not necessarily the reason. It might be possible that student was not well, he was having high fever. So that genuine reason only the student knows. So being a normal human being, what I should be doing? I should ask my student, tell me, show cause. Why didn't you attend my last lecture? Give reason. This is the way to behave. And if I start shouting at the students saying, you didn't attend my lecture, I know you people want to sleep only, you are like this, you all are hopeless students. So it is so bad. I am just giving an analogy. So how a normal behavior should be. So same goes with assessing officer also. Although assessing officer mind is thinking about all corrupt things, that assessee purposely did not cooperate, he don't respect us only, he is like this, like that. But maybe that's not the case. Assessee is having some genuine reason. So that is the logic of giving him a show cause notice. Feel the word show cause means what? AO is saying show means give. Cause means cause means reason. Give reason. Why didn't you cooperate? So tell me, once you get show cause notice, what you should be doing? If you are shameless, you will not even reply to that. But if you are genuinely stuck up in your personal life and because of some genuine and valid reason you are not cooperating, then what an assessee should ideally do? To that show cause notice reply, you should personally visit the income tax department. Means imagine I am AO, I sent you a show cause notice, and in that show cause notice I will mention a day also. On so and so date, for example on 14th of July, attend my office. Or say 10th of December, attend my office and give reason that why didn't you cooperate. And it is not necessary that you have to personally attend, you can give a letter also. Idea is what? He is expecting you to give reason that why are you not cooperating. And obviously to give reason it is better to visit the office personally. Because when you personally meet someone, you can convince him about your genuine problems. By writing a letter you cannot convince that person. Huh? So usually what assessee does, tell me? Once he gets the show cause notice, he will personally come to meet assessing officer and he will explain him, dear assessing officer, I respect you. It is not that I was disrespecting you. But then you know what happened, whenever you expected me to attend the office or do the special audit etc. I was in some problem. My family members, my father was hospitalized, then back to back, my wife got hospitalized. This was the case, that was the case. He will start explaining some blah 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 genuine reasons. And maybe because of his reasons, the AO will get melted. AO will say, oh, that was the case. I was thinking that you are not bothered only and this and that, but you are genuinely having some issues. It's okay. Calm down. Now tell me, when are you ready to meet? We'll meet and do the assessment happily, happy ending, regular assessment. Means the idea of best judgment gets converted into regular assessment. But this rarely happens. But there are chances that assessee might have some very genuine reason which can melt the AO and cool down the AO. But usually many times assessee's reason is what? Actually, I was so busy, nowadays I don't even get time to talk to my wife. I'm so busy. I don't even have time to have my lunch, breakfast, etc. I'm very busy. So if you give such reasons that you are busy, what you will say? We are idle over here. We don't have any work. If you are busy, we are super busy. Don't give this bullshit reason whether you are busy. This is a hopeless reason. I don't agree with your reason. Whatever may be the reason, this is priority. Whatever IT department expects from you, it's a priority. You should take that work on priority basis. And you are giving all nonsense reason that I am not having time and all that. Get lost. And I say, why should I get lost? You have to get lost because it is ex parte assessment. In ex parte assessment, I have to exclude the other party. So get out. Means he will simply ask you to get out. If you give some hopeless reasons like this. But if you genuinely have some good and valid reason, then he will understand your reason and cancel the idea of best judgment and convert it into a regular assessment. Okay? What I am explaining, the purpose of giving him a show cause notice. So that we can know the real reason, and if the reason is genuine for non-cooperation, then best judgment can be dropped. But most of the cases who are not cooperative, they hardly have some valid reason. So imagine a case, assessee gave some bullshit reason and you said you get out only. These are, useless reasons. These are not the reasons for not cooperation. I will do the assessment according to my judgment. So then they will do the judgment. Then he will do the assessment based on his judgment on a piece of paper. And that should be done within 12 months. And that is done by passing an order under section 144. In short, this step makes us understand that AO cannot directly pass the order. He cannot directly start applying his judgment. It is his duty to first talk to assessee and give him a show cause notice first. And after discussing with the assessee in the show cause meeting, he has to do the best judgment assessment. There is one exception to this show cause notice. That if assessee, has not complied with notice under section 142(1), then to such assessee, show cause notice is not given. Exception, normally, show cause notice is must. However, in case of non-compliance with section 142(1), show cause notice is not required. Why? First, forget the reason. First, did you understand the point? The point says, you don't comply with this, you will get show cause notice. In fact, you don't comply with these things, you will get a show cause notice. But for failure to comply with 142(1), you won't get a show cause notice. Why? Because section 142 notice is very sensitive for the income tax department. And if someone do not respect this, they really get frustrated. See, getting frustrated for non-compliance of 139.1 is not good, na? Because 139.1 is expecting what? That you should voluntarily file the return on or before the due date. But there are many people, it is very normal to not file the return on time. So based on that, if AO wants to get angry and do best judgment, he will have to first give a show cause notice. Without talking to assessing show cause, he cannot do best judgment. I mean to say, everywhere AO is obliged to give a show cause notice. But you know, under 142.1, the IT department is very sensitive. Tell me why they are so sensitive. You know, feel the notice under section 142.1. You know what notice under 142.1 expects you to? File the return. You know what law feels? Return is such a thing that you should file voluntarily. If not on time, at least belated. But here we are asking, still you are not filing the return? Hopeless, shameless. We will not even give you a show cause notice, direct best judgment assessment. I am sensitivizing. You didn't feel it sensitive? See, 142.1, try to think from IT department here. If I am assessing officer, what will go inside me? I will think, okay, you didn't file the return on your own, neither timely or belated. At least when I ask you to file the return under section 142.1, out of courtesy, you are supposed to file the return at least in this case. Although we expect that you should file voluntarily, but that also we are ready to let go. That people might not file the return on their own, it's okay. But at least when we send the notice, you should file the return in response to the notice. That if you are not filing, then in our eyes, you are totally shameless and hopeless. And for such people, we care a damn. We care a damn. We don't even feel like giving him a show cause notice. You don't deserve only. And see, in RAI notice, after I, what is A and I? Accounts and information. See, regarding accounts and information, what law feels? We are asking you to give your accounts. What is the harm in giving the accounts? Are we asking some money from you? Are we trying to dig your wealth? It is simply the books of accounts and some basic information. For that you are making us wait and suffer. You are not ready to give some basic things. You know, accounts and information are very basic things which law can expect from assessee. Because it's all about income tax, and income tax has got connection with your accounts. So when we ask for your accounts, it is something very basic thing we are asking. And for that you don't even have to come to the office. You can send through someone. But that if you don't do, for us you are really shameless. You don't deserve show cause notice. Okay, we understand. When we expect you to do special audit, it is a big task. Because getting your accounts audited, it is not a simple thing. We understand we have given you a big task. There if you don't comply, we understand, but then we will give you first show cause notice. Means what I mean to say, if someone doesn't comply with special audit, they are ready to give show cause notice, because expecting someone to do special audit, it is a big task in itself. Audit. But in RAI notice, what are they asking? File the return. Firstly, why do I have to ask for filing the return? You should have filed on your own. We have to ask. And we are asking simple accounts and information. For that, if you are not ready to respond, you don't deserve a show cause notice. In short, I am just explaining the logic behind the provision by talking in such tone that you also get the feeling of assessing officer. Conclusion is what? Whenever you have done mistake under 139.1, 139.4, 142.2a, 143.2, they will not directly start best judgment. They will do one formality of issuing show cause notice. But if you fail to respond to 142.1 notice, you won't get a show cause notice. You know how this knowledge will help you in your day-to-day life? Imagine you are doing articleship. In your office there is some client, and that client has received notice under section 142.1. So being a knowledgeable person, what you should advise your client? See, 142.1 means it is a very sensitive letter for IT department. So what you should be advising to your client? We have to reply to this. We have to. Because if we don't reply, direct base judgment assessment. We will not even get a show cause notice. Purposely law has created 142.1 as exception so that people will take this letter very seriously. That doesn't mean law says that these are lightly things you can ignore also. Means by any chance law doesn't portray that these are useless sections. Rather they are portraying every section is important for you. But this is most important and sensitive. If you fail to reply, you will not even get a show cause notice. So this knowledge will help us in guiding our client that whenever he has got a notice from IT department under 142.1, please force that. In fact, assessee doesn't do anything. He started only has to do. What you are going to tell your client? You will tell your client to reply to RAI notice. That reply and all work is done by a CA only. But even a CA has to be alert, na? That once 142.1 notice has come, you have to be so alert that you have to reply on time. Because if you fail there, you will not get show cause notice directly and order will be passed, raising a big demand. Look at this. See what I have written here. Except show cause notice is not required in 142.1. This is an important question. In exam, what they do, they will create a situation where assessee was sent a notice under 142.1 and best judgment was done directly. And in the question, they will create an argument that assessee is arguing that he was not given an opportunity of being heard, a show cause notice, so best judgment is invalid. They will create a question where assessee is arguing, he is challenging the best judgment assessment. On what grounds? That he was not given show cause notice. So in such case, what will you answer? Assessee is right that he should be given show cause notice, but in the given case, since the assessee has not complied with 142.1, show cause notice is not required. Accordingly, the AO is right in completing the assessment without giving show cause notice. So this kind of question comes, and this is very important from exam point of view. Okay, then time limit. See, show cause notice formality has to be done, but there is no precise time that at what time it should happen. You know what law says? Before you pass the order up to the expiry of this 12 months, that show cause notice formality has to be done. Exactly at what point of time? There is no rule for that. See what I have written here. Look, there is no specific time. See, you didn't understand what I mean to say. See here, look, in regular assessment, we had 2 steps. So there was a specific time of sending notice under 143.2 and asking me to attend. There was some specific time na, but when it comes to the steps of best judgment, there is no specific time of issuing show cause notice, but it is but obvious that it will happen during this period only, because latest by the end of 12 months the assessment has to be completed, and show cause notice is a prerequisite of best judgment assessment. So obviously it will happen in advance before the expiry of this 12 months. But law doesn't mention about a particular time that on so and so time show cause notice should be given. Law simply says show cause notice is must, except in case of failure to comply with 142(1). Show cause is must, but at what time it should be issued, there is no specific time. But yes, to pass the order under 144, the time is defined 12 months from the end of assessment year. This same time was there in regular assessment also. Even regular assessment, right now I am doing best judgment assessment. Before that I did regular assessment. Even regular assessment should be finished within 12 months from the end of AY. Here also the time is same. In fact, what the student should think, obviously the time will be same only. The only difference between regular and best judgment is what? In regular assessment, assess is involved. But in best judgment, assess is not involved. But whether the assess is involved or not involved, the task is common. The common task is assessment. And when the task is common, the time limit for doing the task will be common. I am justifying why the time limit of 12 months is same. Obviously, you cannot expect this. No, best judgment is a different assessment. The time limit should be different. Why the time limit should be different? It has to be same. Did you notice one good thing I said right now? The only difference between regular assessment and best judgment is what? In regular assessment, assessee is involved in the meeting, in the discussion. But in best judgment, we don't involve the assessee. This is the main difference. Otherwise, whether it is regular or best judgment, the common thing is what? AO has to compute the income. But that computation is with discussion in regular assessment. But in best judgment, it's without discussion, it's based on his judgment. But the computation of income and tax liability is a common task. That has to be done within 12 months from the end of assessment year. So finally, best judgment assessment is also done. These 3 slides you have to remember. What 3 slides? Firstly, this drawing you have to remember so that you can imagine what actually happens in best judgment. What is the state of assessing officer? That fire state. Can you feel the fire? He is angry. But although he is angry, he has to calm down and make the assessment in a cool manner, in an honest manner. So firstly, this drawing you have to remember, where you should notice that assessee is not involved in the meeting. Then what is the second slide? You have to literally by-heart these circumstances. You are just listening to my lecture or by-hearting also. You should by-heart simultaneously. Tell me if you memorize the circumstances. Tell me this thing without looking. 139(1) or 139(4) or 142(1) or 142(2)(a or 143(2). You know, in proper language, see, in proper text form, best judgment assessment can be done in any one of the following circumstances. Okay, now point number 1. Failure to file return under section 139(1) or 139(4). Failure to comply with notice under section 142(1) or direction under section 142(2)(a. Failure to comply with notice under section 143(2). These 3 points I said. Repeat this. Best judgment assessment can be done in any one of the following circumstances. Tell me, point number 1. Every point starts with the word failure. So first point, failure to file return under 139(1) or 139(4). Second point, failure to comply with notice under section 142(1) or direction under section 142(2)(a, or failure to comply with notice under section 143(2). What was this 143(2)? calling the assessee to attend the office. And if you don't attend the office, don't attend. Go to hell now. Best judgment. And then after this, you have to remember 2 steps. Step 1 is a formality of sending show cause notices must. It doesn't have a particular time. Whenever AO wants, he has to do that. That's must. Except in a case where the failure is with respect to notice under 142.1. In that failure, you won't get a show cause notice. But that is one exception. Na? But otherwise, show cause notice is to be issued. That's a mandatory requirement as first step. And then AO will pass the order based on his own judgment and the materials gathered by him. So best judgment assessment is done. Okay, now see here. After the theory of best judgment assessment, before we move to some other theory, it is necessary to distinguish and analyze the difference between summary assessment, regular assessment and best judgment assessment. Because see, after best judgment assessment, there is one more assessment which is very lengthy, which is called income escaping assessment. That is most important theory. But you know what I want? Before I step into the theory of income escaping assessment, it is better we make it clear the assessment which you have already done. Because if we just move on like this, after some point of time confusion may start, especially with the time limits. You might have noticed till now some time limits have come, 12 months, 3 months, 9 months, etc. So if I just casually move on to the next topic, the confusion may start. And I don't want that confusion should start. So it's better till now whatever we have done in terms of assessment. Let us summarize in the form of an analysis or distinction. So see, there are 3 assessment: summary assessment, regular and best judgment. So what is the first basic difference? Summary assessment, there is no inquiry. But in regular assessment, it is with inquiry. Even best judgment assessment is with inquiry. And here when I say inquiry, I don't mean to say that formal 142 type inquiry. See, 142 actually it's a formal inquiry. Formal inquiry means a special letter is sent, get your accounts audited, get your stock valued and all that. So that is a formal mode of inquiry. So here when I say with inquiry, I don't mean to say that formal 142 inquiry. For 142, still my stand remains the same. It may or may not happen. So when I say here with inquiry, this is what inquiry? A general inquiry. Just as in regular assessment I said, when assessee is called in the office, when they do discussion, it's kind of an inquiry only. Even for best judgment, it is not possible to do without inquiry. Imagine if I am doing best judgment and I have not done any inquiry. So that means I am simply computing the income based on some guesswork. And that guesswork is not allowed. I have to do some preliminary investigation. Maybe I have to scrutinize past year's return. Maybe I have to talk to GST department. I have to do some basic inquiry. May not be 142 formal inquiry, but some general investigation I will do. Otherwise, how can I dream what should be your income? If I just dream and guess your income, then it is not a best judgment. Best means best. It should be really honest and it should be supported by some materials. And for that, inquiry is needed. I am justifying that here and here inquiry is needed. But summary assessment can go blindly. There inquiry is not needed only. It is simply processed in the income tax software. Then what is the difference? What is the next difference? In summary assessment, return is must. Even in regular assessment, return is must. But in best judgment, return may or may not be filed. You know what is the importance of this? Especially look at this point. In exam, they had asked one question. You know that question was on regular assessment. And as I said, usually ICI questions are situation based. You know what situation they had created in regular assessment? Listen to the question carefully. There was an assessee who didn't file the return, who didn't file the return, and the AO proceeded to do regular assessment. He issued a notice under section 143(2) requiring the assessee to attend the office, and assessee attended the office also. They had a discussion and AO passed the order of regular assessment under section 143(3), and this way he completed the assessment. And you know what was the question? Is this assessment right or wrong? Is it valid or invalid? Many students didn't understand the question only. You know what was the question here? Assessee did not file the return. In spite of the fact that he didn't file the return, the AO proceeded with regular assessment. Although the steps of regular assessment were properly complied. Steps means sending a notice, asking him to attend the office, a notice under 143(2), discussing with him, everything was duly done properly. But the problem was assessee did not file the return. And in case of assessee do not file the return, regular assessment is not allowed. Regular means regular, proper. And a proper assessment expects your return first. Without even your return, if an assessment is done, it's haywire. How can you call it as regular? Feel the word regular. Regular means proper, systematic. And in any proper systematic assessment, return is the basic necessity. And in that exam question which I was narrating, what was the situation? Assessee didn't file the return only, still the AO proceeded with regular assessment. So in such question, what your answer should be, whatever AO has done in terms of procedure, it is okay, but overall it's invalid. Because to conduct regular assessment, return is must. And proof of that is what? In regular assessment, one notice is sent calling him to attend the office. What is the time limit of that notice? 3 months from the end of the year in the return is filed. So when the time limit of 3 months itself states, it should be reckoned from the end of the year in which return is filed. So that automatically presumes that return has to be filed. So without someone filing the return, how can AO do regular assessment? In such question they also ask, if this regular assessment is not valid, so what is the right course of action? Means what AO should have done? So tell me, what should be your answer? The right course of action is, if an assessee has not filed the return, he should be asked to file the return by sending him a notice under 142(1). And that also 142(1). Exam, you have to write the right course of action. So what is the right course of action? If an assessee has not filed a return, the AO should send a notice under 142(1) requiring him to file the return. And that also AO is not obliged. He can skip sending notice under 142(1). He can directly proceed with best judgment. Thinking what? You haven't filed the return, nonsense, gone, best judgment. But obviously for that show cause formality is required. This is the right course of action which AO should have done. Idea of setting the question is what, whether a student knows the provisions or not. That's why I'm explaining everything with logic. If I had to simply make you mug up and memorize the thing like this only, I would not have gone into the logics. And that logic is must, because only if your logic is clear, you can answer the exam question properly. So once again tell me how the question was and how will you answer. The question was a situation wherein assessee did not file the return. And on the top of the fact that he didn't file the return, AO nicely proceeded with regular assessment. Means this is a story which they will narrate in the question. And what they will finally ask you is the assessing officer's action is valid. Action of doing regular assessment, is that action of AO valid? And then they will ask, if it is not valid, what is the right course of action? Answer this. So your answer should start like this. In the given case, the assessee did not file the return, and in absence of return, the AO cannot conduct regular assessment. Hence, the action of AO in doing regular assessment without the assessee filing the return is not valid. The right course of action would be either the assessing officer should send a notice under section 142(1) requiring the assessee to file the return, and after assessee files the return, AO can go for regular assessment. Or the AO is not even obliged to send a notice. Did you understand this obliged part? See, you cannot tell AO, if we didn't file the return, you should ask. Why should I ask? We ask people, but that doesn't mean that we should ask. We are not obliged. We can get so frustrated that we may not even ask for your return by sending you. We can directly start base judgment. So in the right course of action, you have to write either or. Either AO can send a notice under 142(1) requiring him to file the return, and after assessee files the return, regular assessment can be done validly, or the AO may not even send notice under 142(1). He can simply initiate base judgment assessment, because to initiate base judgment assessment, there was one point, failure to file the return, and he has got this point here. He didn't file the return. AO can initiate base judgment for failure to file the return. So the other option what you should write, either 142(1) can be sent requiring to file the return, or AO can directly initiate base judgment assessment by giving a show cause notice first and then computing the income according to his judgment. So this is the right course of action. You know, all this discussion started from where? I was elaborating this point. See, a student casually reads, yes, return is must. But return is must, the importance of this has been highlighted in the form of question like this in exam. Because it is a very old past papers question it is, but they have highlighted this point only. Where this knowledge if a student doesn't have, he will not even understand the question. Reading at the question, it looks everything is perfect. See, you know, in the question also they silently write one point, assessee did not file the return. And they highlight, AO sent notice under 143(2) requiring him to attend the office, assessee attended, and everything will look as if everything has nicely happened. But on one corner they have returned, return was not filed. So without the return is filed, the entire regular assessment procedure is invalid. In short, return is must. But for base judgment, what you should say? Return may or may not be filed. Because base judgment is not a regular assessment that it should be done in a systematic manner. In fact, base judgment is haywire. Assessee who should be involved is not involved only. You are doing anything what you think fit. So actually it is not a proper assessment because assessing officer angry. So here it is possible to complete the assessment without even return. In fact, non-filing of return is many times the reason for base judgment. So that's why I said here return may be filed, may not be filed. Is it possible it's may be filed? Means someone has filed a return in base judgment? Yes. He has filed a return. Maybe he has done some other failure. See what are the failures of base judgment. An assessee might be good in filing the return, but he proved himself bad in this or this, whatever. So in short, for base judgment, what we should say? Return may not be filed also. That itself was a reason for base judgment. Or may be filed, return was filed, but there was some other reason, like special audit was not complied with, etc. There can be some other reason. So that's why it says that return may or may not be filed. Okay, tell me why here I have written return is must in summary. Obviously, in summary assessment, what happens? Your return is being processed in the software already. So when your return has to be processed, so return is must. Without return, what the software will do? So in short, second distinction is done. See one more statement. Look, your return is must and we trust the return. Here, although the return is must, but we don't trust the return because their scrutiny is done. Repeat what I said. Your return is must and we trust the return. Must and trust. Must and trust. Here, although the return is must, but AO will not trust. Obviously, if we trust your return, why will you call in the office and drill you? So, this was important statement. Here, what did I say? Must and trust. At the most, only RLAD corrections are done in an automated manner through a software. But here, return is must. But AO will not trust the return. He will drill you. He will question you in the meeting. But here, as I said, return may or may not be filed. Okay, then next distinction. Come on fast. Next. Summary assessment is purely done on the basis of return. Means return is taken as the base. Whatever is shown in the return, it is being processed and only RLAD corrections are done. RLAD corrections. But in regular assessment, materials gathered by AO and evidence produced by assessee is the basis of assessment. This point is highlighting what? What is the basis? So what is the basis? Materials and evidence. This was highlighted even in my drawing. You forgot the drawing. I'll show you the drawing of regular assessment. Look. Look. Materials gathered by AO, evidence produced by assessee. These two are the basis on which this order is passed. So tell me, in summary assessment, what will be the basis? Simply the return. No materials, no evidence, no discussion. But in regular, materials gathered by AO and evidence produced by assessee. What is the case of best judgment? Materials gathered by AO and judgment of AO. Material also gathered by AO. Judgment also comes from AO. AO and AO. AO alone, because it is ex parte assessment. Assessee is not involved. If you notice, here I have written AO and assessee. Because regular assessment is with AO and assessee mutually done. But best judgment is mutually one-sided. Best judgment is mutually or one-sided. One-sided, it's AO alone. So if you see, I have highlighted here materials of AO, judgment of AO. In short, this is just explaining you the basis of doing the assessment. Last point is very important. That is highlighting the time limit. Look at this. Look. In regular assessment, directly intimation is sent within 9 months from the end of the year in which return was filed. It was counted from the end of the year in which return is filed, and I justified only that it is the return only which is being processed and intimation is generated. So 9 months is from the end of the year in which return is filed, and the section is 143(1). Okay, and in regular and best judgment assessment, listen to my tone. First, then, first, then, Basically, I am trying to highlight there are 2 steps. First, then, This was then regular also, and even in best judgment there were 2 steps. First, then, So what is this? So in regular assessment, first, notice under section 143(2), which should be received by the assessee. Remember, I hammered on the word received. First, notice under section 143(2), which should be received by the assessee within 3 months from the end of the year in which return is filed. Then, order under section 143(3), which should be passed within 12 months from the end of AY. You know why I'm recapping all this? Because see, when I'm explaining, you simply say yes, yes, understood, understood. But people don't remember. Suddenly I realized many students didn't remember this 3 months. How to calculate 3 months? 3 months from the end of the year in which return is filed. And order of 12 months is from the end of AY. And what is the tune? First, then, First, notice under 143(2), 3 months from the end of the return is filed. Then, order under section 143, 12 months from the end of AY. A similar tune for best judgment assessment is first, show cause notice, for which there is no specific time. Then, order under section 144, that has to be passed within 12 months from the end of AY. You know, this point is so important because your time limit is highlighted, which is very important. You know, in your exam paper, there are MCQs. And in MCQs, time limit is the hot favorite question. Time limits. So, these time limits are very important. And this entire topic and rather few more topics, there are so many time limits that some students get frustrated. But I will not let that frustration come to you. I will see to that you remember properly, but I am just telling you a general fear a student has. A general fear is what, I am not able to remember these many time limits. So see, why I am highlighting this fear in front of you only? In front of you, so that you will be alert on this point. You have to be so alert that whenever any time limit comes, you have to seriously memorize. And if you seriously intend to memorize, you can memorize. So take time limit seriously. This way many time limits are going to come. So now tell me, without looking the time limit point, I had actually discussed 4 distinctions. But my main highlight was what, on this point which I discussed. What discussion was there here? Without a written, regular assessment cannot be done. This I highlighted in the form of an exam question illustration. And this thing means this distinction was mainly important for these points. So tell me the points of distinction. That third point, time limit, summary, regular, best judgment. In summary assessment, is it like this? First, then, okay, direct, direct. So see the tune, direct, then first, then, first, then. So remember now, summary assessment, direct, intimation. Here also some students argue, sir, how can you say direct intimation? Here also first assessee is informed, giving him a time of 30 days to reply. But see that informing and giving him a time of 30 days to reply is in selected cases of assessee where already adjustments are proposed to be done. But as I said, 90% return are processed without any already corrections. Just because we have studied in depth what is already doesn't mean that it is so frequent in real life. What is common in real life that there are nothing like already adjustments. So simply after return you directly get the intimation. So summary, direct intimation under section 143(1) within, I want section also and time limit also. Summary, regular, best judgment. In summary, direct intimation under 143(1) within 9 months from the end of the year return is filed. Return is filed. Then in regular, first, then first notice under section 143(2) within 3 months from the end of the year in which return is filed. Then order under section 143(3). That's why I am taking this distinction as very serious. Repeat. First, notice under section 143(2) within 3 months from the end of the return is filed. Then order under section 143(3) within 12 months from the end of AY. Now best judgment assessment. Here also first, then first show cause notice, no prescribed time. Then order under section 144 within 12 months from the end of AY. 12 months from the end of AY. And for show cause notice, there was an exception that if failure to comply with notice under section 142(1) is a reason for best judgment, then you won't get the show cause notice. So check the status. Our status is in the chapter of assessment procedure. Look, what have we finished? Look, returns is done, inquiry is done, assessment is still going on. In this timely assessment we have done, summary, regular, best judgment, all this is done. What is remaining is the most important theory. Literally, I am not exaggerating. Most important theory. If I am a paper setter and if I plan to ask a question from this chapter, so this would be my favorite part. So when I think like this, all the paper setters are like this only. But that doesn't mean you have to ignore whatever we have studied till now. Obviously, what we studied till now, if that we wouldn't have studied, it is impossible to study the coming theory. So everything is equally important, but this is most important theory which will start in the next lecture. And this will consume lectures. This theory will not get over in one lecture. This theory will take lectures. Okay? So be prepared for that. And being prepared means at least by heart this much whatever we have done till now. Please revise and come. And at this point, you need to do some sums. At every stage, you have to do some questions so that you get confidence over what theory you have studied. So your homework is question number 9, question number 10, then question number 11, wait, then question number 12. I understand there are 4 questions for homework, but can't help. Every sum has its own time of solving. And if you solve this sum at that time, it will really have a very good impact. So this time is such that these 4 questions you have to do. Literally this will revise whatever I taught you today. Because as I said, all my questions are customized to my explanation in the videos. Okay. Bye. Revise and come. Please revise and come. Please come on time.